Hey guys, Tarke here, and I would give a update for the Caustic Arrow build, and we're just going to quickly do the Val Temple boss. This is a Monster Life AoE. I haven't got a fully leveled up Caustic Arrow, so it's a bit sloppy, that'll be why. I'm really enjoying the build though, absolutely adoring it in fact. I've been having a lot of fun with it, and it's a very well-rounded build. It hasn't got the best damage, it hasn't got the best clear, but I feel like it has enough of everything in spades. And having played a lot of Caustic Arrow in the past, it does very easily, it plateaus, not plateaus, it very easily reaches new heights, sorry, is what I wanted to say, with just a little bit of investment. So, yeah, let me kind of explain what's going on with the build and all of the cool stuff. Again, hasn't got the best damage currently, but the damage will come. The main reason I'm playing this build is it actually has incredibly high layers of defense. And because of that, you can do some very cool things with it, even though you have a surprisingly low health total. I currently have 3 deaths on the character at level 89. I had 1 death to a Legion while leveling. I had 1 death to a crash. And I had 1 random death to like a big Legion dot on a no regen map. I think it was like a bleed that I just didn't notice. But yeah, it's pretty tanky, even though I have very little seeming life. So let me kind of explain why. So there was some Tarke maths in the last video where I said someone do the working out. I worked out the working out. People told me how to do it. So just very briefly before I show you the gear and explain the build, I'm just going to show you, I have a lot of mitigation. My mitigation comes from a few different sources. So I've got loads of mitigation in Trickster. I have Wind Dancer, 20% less damage. I've got 20% less damage on Kintsugi, and I've got 11% less damage on Flesh and Stone. So how does all this reduce and less damage? How does it all add up? How does it all work together? So, when it comes to calculating my mitigation for this build or any build you may be playing, reduced is additive, so you add it all together. So you can just add it all up together, and that just is like just flat percentage removal. Whereas less is multiplicative, so reduced is better than less. So, to show you the list of all the reduced damage, all the less damage I have 9% from Ghost Dance at max stacks. I have a very high evasion and very regular dodge cap with Vol Grace, so I'm regularly at max stacks. I have Silent Steps, which is 5% against blinded enemies. I have Weave the Arcane, which is a situational 6% whenever I spend 200 mana. I have Basalt Flask, which is 15% against physical damage. I have Prolonged Pain, which is 10% against dots, and then I have the Arakali Pantheon, which is an additional 5% against dots. On terms of less damage, I have Wind Dance, which is 20%, Kintsugi, which is 20%, and Flesh and Stone, which is 11%. So if you add it all together, for just a generic hit, I mitigate 51% of the damage, assuming the enemy is blinded. And I have max Ghost Shrouds up. I have some blind on hit stuff. I also have blind from Flesh and Stone. So with all the stars aligning, it's 51%. With Weave the Arcane active, I mitigate 54.4%. Against a physical hit, so with a Basalt Flask up, I mitigate 59.5%. With Weave the Arcane, it goes up to 62.9%. Against dots, I mitigate 59.5%. And against physical dots with Weave the Arcane active, I actually mitigate 71.5%. Not entirely sure how the point percents, rounding's weird in PoE, so just kind of take it as 51, 54, 59, 62, 59, 62, 68, 71. That's a lot of mitigation. Now, it's not perfect because there's some weird stuff. So, you can calculate resists on top of that. You can also calculate any flask effects on top of that. Couldn't be bothered to go crazy on the maths for you guys. And also, Flesh and Stone is a bit wonky. You might not always have the enemy blinded and nearby, not nearby. For example, the Val Legion mobs, which do the Red Cloud of Death. If I've blinded the Val guy, I don't know if the dot counts as being blinded or not. So take this all with a pinch of salt, but these are roughly my mitigation numbers, which is a lot of mitigation. So you then factor in the fact I have an incredibly high evasion chance, and then I have a very solid dodge, spell dodge, and then a lot of life recovery and sustain through being a trickster. It's a really tanky, very well-rounded build. So let's just go through my gearing options real quick. I'll show you some passive skill tree stuff, and I'll also talk a little bit about Deadeye, which is the clear speed version of the build. Since this is a very well-rounded build, it can do everything. but it doesn't necessarily excel at any one thing. It can just do everything to a good standard, and the more currency you push into it, the more you make up for the weaknesses, and the more you push the clear speed. So I'm currently just on a level 19 Caustic Arrow with only a level 2 in power, so I'm missing 2 levels from it not being 21, and then I'm missing 2 levels from it not being level 4, so I'm missing 4 levels there. I'm using just a base +3 bow. Now, this bow was crafted with fossils, corroded prismatic metallic. What that does is it locks everything out from the prefixes, as long as you have a bow under eye level 84, because at 84 you unlock chaos to attacks mods. The only prefixes you can hit are +1 to bow gems, and then either +1 or +2 to bow gems, then +1 to socketed gems. So you throw some fossils in. I got this on the 3rd try. Ideally, you would like multi-mod it, and you'd craft stuff like attack speed. Attack speed makes the build feel a lot smoother, but I haven't been that lucky. I am trying to 6-link a second bow, and I'll try and craft that better. If you have access to faceted fossils, you also then unlock a new suffix, which is +1 to dexterity gems and +1 to strength gems, which you can also combo in there. The non-ailment chaos damage over time multiplier is the equivalent of getting something like vicious projectiles. The reason why a lot of people do this on elder bows is the option of vicious projectiles. There's also like +1 arrow, area, and just some cool mods. You don't need an elder bow, but I would recommend going for a bow with as much attack speed as possible, or a nice movement speed implicit. For my quiver, you want a eye level 80 quiver. Shaper, that way you can get bow attacks via additional arrow. If you want to go the chain or fork version of this build, you just want any base, it doesn't matter. Get it eye level 80, you craft just with ults, you spam it until you get bow attacks fire, you craft life, and you corrupt. They're very easy to make these. I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these. I made these 5 in like 250 ults. I didn't get lucky and hit any like double arrow quivers, it's fairly rare. But yeah, you just keep going at it. Now for this build, just having the additional arrow, the 1 pierce, a little bit of chaos res, onslaught generation, and the life is really solid. That onslaught generation means I don't need to run a Stygian Vise, and it means I don't need to get another jewel on the skill tree to generate my onslaught, which means I'm able to use Cyclopean Coil. Cyclopean Coil is a very good belt. Stygian Vise edges out on it in most cases, but since they've nerfed the jewels slightly, I actually really like Cyclopean Coil. So a max roll one gives up to 120 life. The increased attributes is quite nice because it just softens up your stat requirements. And it's currently giving me both freeze and shock immune, which is very powerful. That means I can use more unique mods on my flasks, I can run more unique flasks. And it softens up my gear requirements, and it also gives me like 30% increased damage. So it's better than a Stygian Vise since I already have onslaught generation. Really, really solid. And since it's a fairly common item, you can go for the crazy corruptions on them as well. Definitely worth keeping an eye out for. I'm using a pair of Elder Gloves. You want eye level 83 to hit the tier 1 non-ailment chaos damage overtime multiplier. I was very lucky with these gloves. I had the life and the non-ailment, and I actually regaled attack and cast speed. So I just multi-modded them with +1 to level of socketed AoE gems, which gives some air of effect, and then +1 of socketed projectile gems, which gives me pierce. A lot of people try and craft these with deliriums for like essence drain builds, and then you can actually fit like a 6-link in because they gain the +2 levels from the AoE and the gems. And then they get like 30% more damage over time. So that's something you could consider. You could actually very easily fit an Essence Drain into your main setups. My links are fairly fluffy at the moment. You could very easily fit in an additional 6-link Essence Drain or Toxic Rain to supplement your single target. Or in the case of Essence Drain, use the Essence Drain to significantly boost your Legion Clear. Since that's the one... Legion Clear is the one place where this build is a little bit just like... As I said earlier, it feels great for everything because it's adequate and like beyond adequate with investment for everything. But Legion Clear, it's a bit wonky. So if you want really nice Legion Clear, either do the Deadeye version, stacking a bunch of chains, or go for the Essence Drain. You could also do it in a weapon swap if you didn't have very nice gloves. Amulet also has non-ailment chaos damage overtime multiplier. I have Aspect of the Spider crafted on this. Again, this was a very lucky craft. I bought the base. The base was originally just 18 ES and then non-ailment. I regaled the life. My original plan was to regal it, then double and null it down to just the non-ailment, but when I hit that, I'm like, okay, we're sticking with this. So I just crafted Aspects of the Spider and then slammed all res. Really, really solid. Very happy with this. My 2 rings are just life and resist, nothing that special. My helm enchant's pretty cool, it's pretty wonky. So this is a Smoke Mine, grants additional 30% movement speed. I'm actually using Smoke Mine. It's currently giving me 60% movement speed and it lasts like 16 seconds. So it feels like pretty smooth. You can also do some kind of cool stuff with it for popping legions, where you lay it, you clear out one half, then you press it and you like teleport back to the middle and you clear out the other half. It's kind of cool. I'd recommend messing around with it. It's definitely a niche option, that's for sure. But otherwise, just fossil crafted for the nearby enemies have reduced chaos res and then life, percent life. Ideally, you would want one which also had the pierce craft on it. You can craft that on gloves and helm. So that would be 1, 2, 3 pierce base. I'm going to use the gem or take it on the tree, which is plenty in my opinion. And then my Kintsugi combos with Wind Dancer. I'm running just a Despair, Frenzy, Curse on Hit, GMP, and then I have my Increased Duration Smoke Mine, and then I've got Auras of Malevolence, Enlighten, Flesh and Stone. I'm just using Valgrace since I'm using the Aspect. You could run Grace and Malevolence together if you wanted to, but that's kind of whatever. I'm actually experimenting with a Self-Cast Wither. Self-Cast Wither is pretty cool because of the Infused Channeling buff. I have so much skill effect duration in my build that you can see it lasts for 17 seconds. Otherwise, most people use either like a Val Blight using the Blight Jewel, but I don't want to spend 3 points for a jewel, or they use totems. I tried using Toxic Rain totems, even in +2 gloves. It just felt pretty meh. I really like this setup though, because it applies the Wither very easily. It gives me the 17 seconds of 10% more damage. And for super scary bosses, you just want to like curse it, drop the Caustic Arrow, run around, and you can very easily just like throw in a couple of Withers while dodging abilities. And it just feels really fluid and really smooth. I've got loads of cast speed on this build, so it feels great. I'm currently trying to just like socket reroll this so I can get my 4th off color. So it'd be Wither, Infused Channeling, Increased Duration, Faster Casting. So that's kind of that. This skill tree is fairly basic. I skip Shadow Start to save some skill points. At a high level, you would fill that back in. Again, we save a skill point here to get this life here. But for leveling, I rooted through here, grabbed Entropy, grabbed Fangs of the Viper. I then came up to Trickery. We then went straight all the way up to Atrophy. At that point, I grabbed Method to the Madness, Hunter's Gambit, Phase Acro. And then if you want to run all your auras early, grab Charisma. If you have the Brutal Restraint early, grab Wind Dance. Again, it's the Maraketh Jewel of Deshret. It's also currently giving me some Cold Res, some Flask Effect, Avoid being stunned. I currently have a 96% chance of Avoid being stunned, which is really nice. It's another reason why I didn't take Escape Artist. I took Weave the Arcane. Weave the Arcane means I can run every single map mod, so I can run no regen. It's great. You could drop this and take Swift Killer instead for the Frenzy charges and the Power charges, especially since I'm now experimenting with doing the Self-Cast Wither. It's a very solid option. You could also drop Ghost Dance if you didn't want the Mitigation to take that for extra damage, if you wanted Swift Killer with the Arcane and Prolonged Pain. And then at that point, grab Skill Effect Duration, and now I'm just filling in life. I'm just going to get life for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels, which will take me through to 94. From 94 onwards, you can fill in these nodes here for damage and attack speed, which makes the build feel a lot smoother. Fill in these nodes, swap that back round to gain some damage, and then go for like 3-point jewels, and that's basically the build. So I'll show you the path of building very quickly. The thought process behind the clear speed version, the Deadeye version. So you would go Gathering Winds, Far Shot, Ricochet, Endless Munitions. This gives you... I can just show you the Deadeye tree. So you can see the damage is pretty comparable. This is running the Chain Support gem though, so it's more damage doing the Trickster version, because this is a 7-link and you wouldn't run Chain on the Trickster version, but anyway. The damage is comparable, and the Ricochet actually boosts the cloud damage, which makes it very powerful. So considering you can corrupt +1 chain on a quiver, with a +1 chain quiver and Ricochet, you have 2 chains, that's 20% more damage there. You could then use the Chain Support gem for an additional 20%. It would have much, much better Legion clear, but if you really care about Legion clear, as I said earlier, you'd use an Essence Rain setup. And then the additional arrow, additional area, it would just have substantially more clear, but it would have way less sustain, way less mitigation, but it's a very valid option. In terms of the skill tree, I'm pretty happy with the skill tree. I don't really think there's anything I would change. The only thing you would change is if you were doing a escape artist version, you would obviously drop everything from here, and then you would probably try and come across this way, grab some AoE, grab some flask effect. Alternatively, you would just come further down this way. This cluster down here is really strong, heavy draw. This gives loads of damage over time, and it gives some increased area. So you could maybe drop this and come down this way. You could come up for more skill effect duration. You'd most likely head towards Witch. You could even just copy a straight up Essence Drain tree, come across, grab Corruption, grab Dual Curse. But anyway, I'll leave links to everything down below. I'm Tarke. Sick Transmog, by the way. Using the Transcendent set with a skinned on Voltaxic Pepe. That gives you this nice purple coming through, which matches that. And then, fun fact, the Elder Tentacles, because they've got this like reflective surface on it, they pick up the coloration of the Transcendent set. Also, Stranger Things, by the way. So yes, I'm Tarke. Hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.